Good morning, friends, and thank you very much for coming so early in the morning for many of you on a Saturday. And I apologize for that, but the idea was to try and fill you up on several visits that are going to happen in the next few days, both incoming and outgoing. What I will do is first make the formal announcements of some of those visits, and then I have here with me Joint Secretary Eurasia, Mr. Ajay Bisaria, who will brief you specifically on one of those visits, following which we will also have my other colleagues come and talk to you on other visits that are taking place. So with that sort of a preliminary introduction, let me try and make the announcement that I have. The first one is about the visit of the President of Afghanistan. President Karzai will be visiting India from 20th to 22nd of May. This is President Karzai's 12th visit since he assumed office in 2002. He was last in New Delhi in November 2012 on a state visit. President Karzai will arrive on 20th in the afternoon in Chandigarh, from where he will go to Jalandhar and visit the lovely professional university in Jalandhar, where he is being conferred an honorary doctorate, that is the honoris causa, by the President of India. The Chief Minister of Punjab will also be present on the occasion. Subsequent to this ceremony in Jalandhar, President Karzai will come to Delhi, and on the 21st, he has two meetings in Delhi. He will meet the President at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Subsequently, in the evening, he will meet the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister will also host a dinner for him. On 22nd morning, President Karzai will return to Kabul. The visit is indicative of the strong and close relations that we have with Afghanistan and the frequent contacts between the senior leaders of the two countries. That's the first announcement that I have to make. The second announcement is regarding the visit of the Vice President Dr. Hamid Ansari to Uzbekistan. Vice President and Srimati Salma Ansari will be visiting Uzbekistan from 21st to 24th May. During his visit, Vice President is expected to call on the President of Uzbekistan, Mr. Islam Karimov, and he will also have meetings with the Chairman of the Senate. The latter is also expected to host a banquet in his honor. Apart from Tashkent, the Vice President will also visit Samarkand and Bukhara, where he is expected and scheduled to also meet the regional heads of those provinces. Vice President will be accompanied by the Minister of State for Environment and Forests, Independent Charge, Srimati Jayanti Natarajan, and 4 members of Parliament. These members are Dr. E.M. Sudarshanan Nachiyappan, Shri Shivanand Tiwari, Shri K.N. Balagopal, and Srimati Sumitra Mahajan. We've had frequent high-level contacts between Uzbekistan and India since the independence of Uzbekistan in 1991. President Karimov has visited India in 1991, 1994, 2000, 2005, and 2011. Prime Minister Narasimha Rao had visited Uzbekistan in 1993 and Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2006. Just to summarize some of the major contacts and economic links, our bilateral trade with Uzbekistan is in the vicinity of about $200 million, with the balance of trade in favor of India. Our major exports are drugs and pharmaceuticals, and by various estimates, about 40% of the pharmaceutical imports of Uzbekistan are from India. There are 15 pharmaceutical companies from India who have offices or representative offices in Uzbekistan. Uh, Another area of contact is the ITEC scheme. Under the ITEC scheme, we provide 150 scholarships for Uzbek nationals, and these are utilized fully every year. In terms of air connectivity, as you know, this is an area of priority for us, and there are 15 direct flights between India and Uzbekistan, and there is discussion to perhaps increase this a little bit more. And Ajay will provide you further details if you would like to know. Um, the Vice President's visit is expected to give a further fillip to the strong bilateral relations that we have with Uzbekistan in particular and Central Asia in general. What I will now do is request my colleague Mr. Bisaria to speak to you about the substance of our relations, following which we will open the floor for any questions that you would like to have.
Thank you, Akbar. I'd like to believe that this very healthy attendance is thanks to a surge of interest in Uzbekistan and Central Asia. So, well, I'm going to talk about a country which is north of Afghanistan and west of China, and this is where the Vice President is headed. Vice President Shri Hamid Ansari, as Akbar just told you, will be visiting Uzbekistan from 21st to 24th May. He'll be accompanied by a high-level delegation, as is the norm, which is the Minister of State for Environment and Forests and 4 members of Parliament, the names of which Akbar read out. The Vice President will also visit the historical cities of Samarkand and Bukhara, and this is, of course, the first ever visit by a Vice President of India to Uzbekistan. During the visit, VP will call on the President, His Excellency Mr. Islam Karimov, where we expect bilateral as well as regional and international issues, particularly Afghanistan, to come into serious discussion. He'll also have a meeting with the Chairman of the Uzbek Senate, Mr. Sobirov, who will be accompanying him throughout the visit, and the Speaker of the Lower House of Parliament, where we feel there will be opportunities to discuss parliamentary cooperation in some detail. The Minister for Foreign Economic Relations, Mr. Ganiev, is also going to call on the Vice President, and that will give us an opportunity to review bilateral economic and commercial relations. Broadly speaking, I think we need to look at the VP's visit as a continuation of high-level contacts with a strategic partner in our neighborhood, and particularly a strategic partner which will be a key player in the Afghanistan that we come to see developing in post-2014. As you know, during the last visit of President Karimov to India, we declared a strategic partnership between the two countries, and this is the intensity of the relationship that we hope to continue. As Akbar mentioned, India and Uzbekistan are part of a common region. We share a similar approach to several important regional issues, and our ties have traditionally been cordial. We have deep-rooted historical and cultural linkages. Let me just recount some background of Indo-Uzbek relations, which go back many centuries. So if you really need to start the story, you have to start it in the 2nd century AD, when we were part of the same political space in the Kushan Empire, with its capital in Bactria and present-day Afghanistan. So if we were going 18 centuries ago, we wouldn't have needed a visa for Vice President to travel, because we were part of the same country. It extended, the Kushan Empire extended through Delhi right up to Varanasi. We have had, of course, several exchanges since. The 14th century, Amir Timur, or Timur Lane, came to from Uzbekistan. He extended his empire through several parts of North India, and thereafter, in the 16th century, came the great Mughal Babur, who set up the Mughal empire, which brought us again together in multiple ways in terms of culture, cuisine, architecture, and so on. And of course, the Silk Route has connected us forever since almost 100 BC, and there have been multiple exchanges of several influences from Central Asia to India, and of course Buddhism traveling up to Uzbekistan. Even during Soviet times, Indian leaders visited Tashkent. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, accompanied by Srimati Indira Gandhi, visited Uzbekistan in 1955 and 1961. Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri visited in January 1966 and passed away in Tashkent. His name has in fact been commemorated in Tashkent. A street and a school are named after him. There's also a statue and a bust in his memory. So even in modern times, in Soviet times, there was a great deal of interaction with this country or this region. We had a consulate, India had a consulate in Uzbekistan since 1987, even before the breakup of the Soviet Union. And following Uzbekistan's independence in 91, we converted that consulate into an embassy. So since its independence, we've had a very close friendship with Uzbekistan. President Karimov since has been the president of Uzbekistan since that time, and visited India in that capacity 4 times. We've signed more than 87 documents, having which give us a framework of and the legal basis for cooperation. So we've had continuous engagement with Uzbekistan through high-level exchanges. Our Prime Minister last visited Uzbekistan in 2006, and of course President Karimov came on his 5th visit to India. The first was actually when he was Communist Party president in 1991. And this is a country which is the heart of Central Asia. It shares borders with all the other Central Asian countries and about 200 kilometers of border also with Afghanistan. Naturally, we have a very common and pressing concern on terrorism. Both India and Uzbekistan are deeply concerned about the terrorism which comes from the epicenter between us in our neighborhood. Several radical elements of the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, now called the Islamic movement of Turkestan, and also the Hizbul Tahrir, have found shelter in this region. And we have a very robust ongoing dialogue with Uzbekistan on counter-terrorism issues, which get even more pronounced in the run-up to 2014 and the multiple scenarios we are discussing which could unfold then. We have converging views on the stability in Afghanistan, and would like to work together with Uzbekistan in discussing this issue. We already have a structured dialogue on Afghanistan. Uzbekistan, just in terms of context, has been a member of the Northern Distribution Network, or has it provided its territory for this Northern Distribution Network, which takes care of the reverse flow of the ISAF non-lethal cargo. I believe as much as 60% of it is using this trans-Afghan route through the border town of Termez up to into Russia and the Russian ports. We have in this context a very interesting dialogue going on with Uzbekistan on using trans-Afghan borders for promoting connectivity to Central Asia. This includes, you would have seen recently reports about the Chabahar port, where India is going to be investing, and that provides a very, very potentially promising corridor for trans-Afghan movement of goods into Uzbekistan. We have a very strong cooperation in the information technology sector, where Uzbekistan has a great deal of interest. We have the Jawaharlal Nehru Center for IT Excellence, which we are going to upgrade shortly. And then as part of our Connect Central Asia policy, we are also going to implement a flagship project of an e-network connecting all of Central Asia to India, with hubs in each capital, including Tashkent. Let me stop right there, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, the floor is open now. Yes, Vijay. Yes.
I just want to ask you whether this Islamic movement of Turkestan, which you're referring to, does it have some relation with the Xinjiang province of China, where the same kind of movement is on for a separate Turkestanis?
Well, you know, it's very hard to pinpoint these things, but I do believe that several of the movements, or separatist and fundamentalist movements, are connected. We saw, as we spoke, a common training infrastructure in the Pakistan region, and that comes up for discussion very frequently. But whether they have organic linkages and whether these keep shifting, changing, that is a matter of expert opinion. But I believe there are connections. Yes.
Seema?
You just mentioned multiple scenarios that you all are discussing on Afghanistan. Could you just give us a sense of what are these multiple scenarios?
I think I've been reading in the media about them and
No, but
multiple
you've been
scenarios
discussing.
but I think the point is that when we have a conversation with another neighbor of Afghanistan on Afghanistan, the dialogue moves to possible scenarios that might unfold. I don't want to spell out the scenarios because you see them a lot in strategic literature, but they are from the very scary to the positive to the very positive.
Yes, Frank. Yeah, yeah.
A kind of related question, really. What would India? You talk about your convergent views. What would India like to see in an ideal scenario? What would India like to see Uzbekistan doing in the post-2014 Afghan situation? What role would Uzbekistan play, ideally?
Well, I think the point of convergence is that the interest in both Uzbekistan and India is in having a stable Afghanistan, which does not have a spillover of terrorist influences or fundamentalist influences into the territory either of Uzbekistan or of India. So I think the conversations that take place with Uzbekistan are on details of counter-terrorism cooperation, on discussing also on collaboration in economic projects. For instance, I can remind you that one of the main projects that India has executed in Afghanistan is the transmission line, which essentially brings Uzbek power into Kabul. This is a transmission line built by India from the border town of Termez, which is the opening of Afghanistan to the outside world, the bridge on the Amu Darya, to Pulekomuri town and to Kabul. So I think the conversation would revolve around economic reconstruction projects, where this is an instance of India and Uzbekistan's cooperation, and also on counterterrorism cooperation, with an emphasis, as I said, on multiple scenarios that could unfold post 2014.
Dr. Suman? No, let's finish this.
Okay.
Yeah?
Afghanistan, I have to ask one thing. Oh, Afghanistan?
This is Uzbekistan. Yeah. Anybody else? Uzbek?
Since the environment minister is also going with the vice president, are there any specific environmental issues or agreements which are going to take place with Uzbekistan?
No, a vice president's visit is essentially a goodwill visit, and this, of course, a bilateral conversation does take place, and we would not rule out discussions on environmental issues, but there is no operational discussion that is planned at the moment. No.
अकबर, मेरा आपसे सवाल है, किस लिए करज़ई आ रहे हैं हिंदुस्तान, मकसद क्या है? पाकिस्तान में सरकार बदल गई है, पाकिस्तान नहीं चाहता कि हम अफ़गानिस्तान में काम करें, तो क्या क्या बातें होनी हैं और किस तरीके से आतंकवाद से निपटना है? ज़रा सा आप हिंदुस्तानी में बता देंगे तो ख़बर बेहतर बन जाएगी।
जैसे कि आप लोग जानते हैं, मेरी हिंदुस्तानी काफ़ी टूटी फूटी है, बट मैं कोशिश करता हूँ कि आपके सवाल का जवाब दूँ, क्योंकि वैसे मैं दक्षिण भारत से ताल्लुक़ रखता हूँ, तो हिंदी में बोलने में कुछ मुश्किलात होती हैं, बट कोशिश करता हूँ। देखिए, राष्ट्रपति कारजाई जो आ रहे हैं वो यहाँ हिंदुस्तान कई बार आ चुके हैं। ये उनकी 12वीं विज़िट है हिंदुस्तान, और पिछले 2.5 साल में शायद ये चौथी विज़िट है हिंदुस्तान को। आप जैसे जानते हैं, हमारे उनके ताल्लुकात बहुत गहरे हैं, और हमारी एक स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप हो चुकी है उनसे, और इस बुनियाद पर हम उनसे कई मुद्दों पर बात करते हैं। और शायद मैं कह सकता हूँ 4 मोटे या मेन मुद्दे हैं। एक है सिक्योरिटी एंड पॉलिटिकल कंसल्टेशंस, दूसरी है इकोनॉमिक और ट्रेड के मुद्दों पर, और फिर जो हमने कई प्रोजेक्ट्स डेवलपमेंट के वहाँ पर शुरू किए हैं, जैसे कि अभी अजय ने बताया था जरंज दिलाराम रोड, पुले खुमरी से इलेक्ट्रिकल ट्रांसमिशन, सलमा डैम के ऊपर काम चल रहा है, वहाँ की पार्लियामेंट बिल्डिंग हिंदुस्तानी कंपनीज बना रही हैं। तो इन सब मुद्दे, ये तीसरा है। और आखिरी है जो हम कहते हैं अंग्रेज़ी में ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज डेवलपमेंट और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग। तकरीबन 2000 अफ़गान स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पर ट्रेनिंग लेते हैं, कई तरीके के कोर्सेज हैं। अब रही बात आप जो कह रहे हैं टेररिज्म की, ये हम सब जानते हैं कि वैसे तो हमारा फोकस रहा है इकोनॉमिक इश्यूज़ पर, डेवलपमेंट पर, और अफ़गानिस्तान की सहायता करने, इन सब मुद्दों पर। बट हम जानते हैं कि बिना पॉलिटिकल और सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज़ को टैकल किए बिना अफ़गानिस्तान का मामला फाइनली सुधरेगा नहीं। तो हाँ, ये सही बात है, इस मुद्दे पर भी बातचीत होगी, और जब बातचीत हो जाए हम आपसे शेयर करेंगे कि किन पेचीदियों पर बातचीत हुई है। I am grateful to you for having borne with this. Yes, Mr. Venkat Narayan.
Ajay, during his election campaign, Nawaz Sharif had said that if he comes to power, he would be open to opening up Wagah for trade to Afghanistan and Central Asia. If that happens, or whether it happens or not, and once Chabahar is in place, we can trade with the entire Central Asian bloc. Has any work been done about what kind of potential there is for India's trade with Central Asia post Chabahar, and when is Chabahar going to be ready for trade into the region? Thanks.
Sure. On Chabahar, you know that India has recently announced a cooperation with Iran in working on the port and developing parts of it and some jetties and so on. This is a medium-term project. So connectivity with Central Asia is contingent on also a railway project which is being developed by Iran, which is going to be a connection from Chabahar north to Zahidan and Mashhad in the north, and from there the Uzbek railways has already developed a connection of 75 kilometers from Mazar-e-Sharif, from Termez, the town Termez, to Mazar-e-Sharif, and they have plans to go up to a little west to Herat, and eventually the Iranian railway and the Uzbek connection would connect. And this, I think, would be an extraordinary development in the next 5 years, let's say definitely within the next 5 years, of connectivity, rail connectivity, which would allow a container to be loaded from Mumbai, reach Chabahar, and then be transported into Afghanistan or Central Asia. So I think that is a strong connectivity option. You mentioned Pakistan. This is a question you ought to put to Pakistan, but the point is that if a corridor presents itself through the territory of Pakistan and Afghanistan, we would be happy to support the idea. We already do, in principle, support an idea of an economic corridor which brings Turkmen gas from Turkmenistan to India. That TAPI is essentially an economic corridor which goes through Kandahar to Quetta and comes to Gujarat. And this hopefully will be on the ground in 2017. And the point is that if once we have a gas pipeline, what stops us from having an oil pipeline or a railroad or a road using a corridor?
You finish, yes, Dr. Ansh. Dr. Sumar.
So, given the fact that Chinese premier is coming tomorrow, what are we going to put proposal before him regarding trade and boundary issue?
We will have a separate briefing on that. Let's focus on what's right now on the table, and that is these two announcements, and we will have, I will just give you a break and we will focus on that. Anybody else on these things? Yes, Gautam.
Yeah, recently, just 2 days ago, Afghanistan ambassador has briefed up India, and he said he was saying about a deeper military ties with India. I want to know what is the India's view on it. He wants also specifically lethal weapons to be supplied to Afghanistan. Without arms, no trained army means nothing.
Thank you very much. Let me try and address the issues that you raised. You know, Afghanistan is a traditional friend and partner of India. It is a strategically important neighbor with whom we have historical, cultural, and economic ties that go back to the dawn of history. We have also a long-term vision of our bilateral relations and have taken a number of initiatives which stem from the strategic partnership agreement that we have with Afghanistan. Now, in recent times, we have, of course, focused on economic empowerment of Afghanistan and tried to implement key developmental projects within the capacity that we have. And I could list a number of these issues. For example, recently we eliminated all custom duties for Afghanistan so that Afghan goods can have access to our entire market of more than 1 billion plus Indians. We also have planned investment in the Hajigak iron ore mines with the intention not only to evacuate iron ore but also to construct Afghanistan's first steel plant. I have previously mentioned some of our other main developmental projects in Hindi, but I could repeat them in English. And these are the 218-kilometer road from Zaranj to Delaram, the 220-kilowatt transmission line from Pulekumri to Kabul. We have a very expansive bilateral capacity building program where about 2,000 Afghans are trained in various aspects of capacity building every year in India. We have humanitarian assistance in terms of our wheat exports in the biscuits which we provide, and are also taking important infrastructure programs such as the Salma Dam and the building of the parliament. Now, while we are striving to realize this vision of a economically viable Afghanistan, we do realize, and we have no illusions, that we can ignore the political and security issues that stand in the way of realizing that vision. And to implement that, under the Strategic Partnership Council, which is under the Strategic Partnership Agreement, we have what's called a Strategic Partnership Council, and that is headed on our side by the External Affairs Minister and on the Afghan side by their foreign minister. They met for the first time last year in the summer in New Delhi, and of course, during the course of this year, there will be the second meeting of that. Under this, there are 4 rubrics, and one of those relates to political and security consultations. And perhaps that's the rubric under which all this will fit. If there are issues to be raised in terms of security consultations, that's where these will be raised, rather than I do understand that all of you are very eager and have carried news reports of statements, but our view is that there is a mechanism that is available and all issues are discussed under this mechanism, and within our own modest means as a developing country, we have, I've just listed out to you the sort of activities that we've done, and we will continue to discuss and respond to specific requests of the Afghan government. And my suggestion to you is, please wait. When these discussions take place, there is a format, there are diplomatic channels, and we will consider these as and when these are raised in the channels which are available.
So in summary, not yet.
I think you summarized my words. These are available on the record. You can, each one of you representing independent media organization is free to summarize them the way he or she would like to. I wouldn't like to comment on that. Thank you very much, and just give us a little bit of a break. We come back. Thank you.